Mariana had always been a dedicated and hardworking woman, giving her best every single day at the corporate office where she'd worked for nearly 5 years. As a Latina woman in a predominantly white and male-dominated industry, she had faced her fair share of challenges. She kept her head down, worked long hours, and earned the respect of her colleagues who admired her sharp mind and determination. But there was one person who didn't seem to see her value: her manager, Mr. Walker. From the start, he made her feel invisible. He often dismissed her ideas in meetings, even when they were well thought out, and took credit for her work when it suited him. His behavior was subtle yet cutting: comments about her accent, remarks about how lucky she was to have made it this far, and the constant feeling that no matter how hard she worked, it was never enough for him. He overlooked her for promotions, offering excuses, and instead gave those opportunities to others who didn't work nearly as hard. Mariana's frustration grew, but she held on, thinking one day her hard work would speak for itself. Little did she know Mr. Walker had already made up his mind about her. One afternoon, during a crucial team meeting, Mr. Walker was looking for any reason to undermine Mariana. Despite her flawless record, he had been growing increasingly resentful of her growing influence in the office. He couldn't stand that his employees, including his superiors, were starting to notice her talent more than his. The meeting began with a presentation of the company's latest project, and Mariana was the one who had meticulously prepared the report and data analysis. As she went over the details, answering questions with confidence, Mr. Walker suddenly interrupted her, pointing to a section of her report on the projector screen. "This doesn't add up," he said loudly, narrowing his eyes. "You've missed an important detail here, Mariana. This is basic stuff. How could you overlook this?" Mariana's heart sank. She had reviewed her work countless times. There was nothing wrong with the report. "I believe that section is correct," she replied, trying to remain calm. "If you'd like, I can go over the data again after the meeting." But Mr. Walker wasn't listening. He went on, increasing the pressure, accusing her of a mistake she hadn't made. The whole room fell silent as he turned to the team and without hesitation threw her under the bus. "This kind of mistake," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, "is the reason why we can't rely on people like Mariana for important tasks. It's no surprise, maybe it's time to reevaluate if she's even fit for this position." The air in the room grew thick with tension. Mariana's face flushed with embarrassment, her stomach tightening with humiliation. She stood her ground, her voice steady. "Mr. Walker, I've worked here for years and you know that I always give my best," she said, her voice barely masking the hurt. "I didn't make any mistake, and if you look closely you'll see that." But he wasn't interested in the truth. With a cold, dismissive look, he turned to the HR representative sitting in the back corner of the room and said, effective immediately, "I'm letting Mariana go. We can't have someone who can't even handle basic tasks representing this company." The shock hit her like a wave. She had been expecting a reprimand, maybe some critique, but not this. Not a public firing in front of her peers. Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She packed her things silently, the weight of it all sinking in. As she walked out of the office, her mind raced. This wasn't the end. She would rise above this. No matter what it took, she would prove that she was worth so much more than the way she had been treated. The weeks that followed her firing were filled with frustration and heartbreak. Mariana had always prided herself on her work ethic, and now, after giving everything for years, she felt as though her dreams had been shattered in an instant. Every rejection letter, every interview that went nowhere, felt like a confirmation of her worst fear: that Mr. Walker had been right about her. Maybe she wasn't good enough after all. But deep down, Mariana knew she couldn't let herself sink into despair. She couldn't let Mr. Walker's cruelty define her. Every night, as she scrolled through job listings and faced rejection after rejection, she remembered the look on his face when he fired her, his smug, self-righteous expression. She promised herself she would show him and everyone who doubted her that she was capable of so much more. To make ends meet, Mariana took on side jobs, anything she could find. She worked long hours as a waitress, picked up freelance writing gigs, and even cleaned houses when the opportunity arose. It wasn't glamorous, but it was necessary. Yet, even as she struggled to pay bills and make rent, she refused to give up on her bigger goal. She enrolled in business management courses at a local community college, attending classes at night after her shifts. She studied late into the night, taking notes by dim candlelight when she was too tired to turn on the lights. It wasn't easy. There were days when she doubted herself, when she felt like she had nothing left to give. But with every passing week, she grew stronger. The side jobs helped her build resilience and time management skills, while the business courses gave her a deeper understanding of leadership and strategy. She began to see herself differently, not as the woman who had been discarded, but as a woman with ambition and an unbreakable spirit. Her determination paid off when she landed an interview at a rival company, one that had been growing rapidly in the market. The role was an entry-level position, but it was at a company that respected its employees, where hard work and talent were actually rewarded. For the first time in months, Mariana felt a spark of hope. When she walked into the interview, she was met with a warm welcome. The hiring manager, Samantha, was impressed by Mariana's qualifications, her determination, and the grit she had shown in her journey. As they spoke, Mariana realized she wasn't just being seen for her skills, she was being valued. The hiring manager didn't focus on the gap in her employment history. Instead, she asked questions about Mariana's experiences, how she overcame challenges, and what drove her. By the end of the interview, Samantha offered her a position in the company's management training program. It wasn't the highest role, but it was a start, a real chance to prove her worth. Mariana accepted the offer with tears in her eyes, knowing that this was just the beginning of something bigger. She had been knocked down, but now she was finally standing up again. In her new role, Mariana poured herself into her work. Her passion combined with her new business knowledge quickly made her a star employee. She proved herself time and time again, delivering results that exceeded expectations. The more she worked, the more her confidence grew. She wasn't the same woman who had been fired and humiliated. She was stronger, smarter, and ready to take on whatever came next. As the months passed, her efforts did not go unnoticed. The company recognized her potential and began grooming her for leadership positions. Mariana could finally see her hard work paying off, and with every success, she felt one step closer to her ultimate goal to prove to herself and the world that she was capable of achieving greatness. Mariana's journey had only just begun, but already she could feel the tide turning in her favor. She threw herself into her new role with unwavering dedication. Every project was a chance to prove herself, to showcase her skills, and she took that responsibility seriously. With each passing month, her performance stood out. She brought fresh ideas to the table, streamlined processes, and quickly earned the respect of her colleagues and supervisors. Her intelligence and drive made her a valuable asset to the company, and it didn't take long before she earned her first promotion. Her path to leadership was swift. Within a year, she moved up from a junior manager position to a senior role. Mariana was no longer just another employee, she had become a key player in the company's success. Her confidence grew, and so did her influence. The hard work she had put in, the sleepless nights, and the sacrifices, all of it was paying off. She had become a role model to others in the company, proving that no matter where you start, dedication and perseverance can take you to the top. Her reputation spread beyond her company's walls. Other departments sought her expertise, and she began leading high-stakes projects that brought in large accounts and increased the company's bottom line. She was no longer just a manager, she was a strategic leader, someone whose opinions and decisions shaped the company's future. But just as things were falling into place for her, the unexpected happened. One morning, Mariana received an email that would alter the course of her career once again. The company she now worked for had made a major acquisition, her old workplace, the one where Mr. Walker had so cruelly fired her. At first, Mariana wasn't sure how to feel about it. She had moved on from that chapter of her life, but now, the past was coming back in a way she hadn't anticipated. The email outlined the changes to the organization's structure. The newly acquired company would be merged into her department, and the leadership roles would be reassigned. Mariana's heart raced as she scrolled through the details. Then her eyes widened when she saw the most important line of all. She had been selected to be the new regional director of the newly integrated teams. It was a huge responsibility. But for Mariana, it was the ultimate affirmation of her growth. She was now at the helm of a region that included her old workplace, the same place where she had been dismissed without cause, without a second thought. Her heart swelled with a sense of justice and vindication. This was more than just a promotion, it was a moment of triumph. She had not only risen above the challenges she faced, but had also come full circle, in a position to lead the very people who had once doubted her. As regional director, she would oversee a team of hundreds, including former colleagues from her old company. She knew the challenges ahead would be enormous, but she was ready. She had earned this position with her hard work, intelligence, and unshakable determination. This wasn't just about business, it was about making a statement. She would show them all, especially Mr. Walker, that her worth was never in question, and now she had the power to prove it. The day the merger was announced, Mariana stood in front of her new team, feeling a mix of pride and responsibility. Her eyes glanced over the crowd, knowing that some of them had once seen her as an underdog, but now she was their leader. And as for Mr. Walker, he had no idea what was coming. The day Mariana returned to her old office, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. She had spent years working in this building, giving her all for a company that never appreciated her, led by a manager who had discarded her without a second thought. Now she was walking through the same hallways, but as the regional director responsible for a team that included her former colleagues and her former boss. The merger had just taken effect, and the transition was happening quickly. She had been asked to oversee the integration process, which included visits to various branches. Her old office was the first on her list. As she walked through the doors, memories flooded back of the late nights spent working, of the cruel comments from Mr. Walker, of the day he fired her. But this time she was in charge. The moment she stepped into the building, the atmosphere was noticeably different. The once vibrant office had become stale and disorganized under the leadership of the new management team. It was clear that Mr. Walker had struggled after the company was bought out. The office was no longer the well-oiled machine it had once been. Employees seemed demoralized, and the morale was at an all-time low. Mariana's first stop was to the HR department, where she received a few reports on the current state of the office. As she flipped through the files, she saw Mr. Walker's name come up more than once, a series of complaints, missed targets, and an alarming number of staff resignations. Her old manager had lost his grip, and his shortcomings were now laid bare for everyone to see. As she entered the main office area, she saw him standing by his desk, looking disheveled and clearly out of place. He hadn't noticed her yet. Mariana watched him for a moment, a quiet sense of satisfaction washing over her. He was no longer the untouchable boss who had fired her without cause. Now he was the one who was struggling. When Mr. Walker finally looked up, his face froze, his eyes widened in shock. The color drained from his face as he processed what he was seeing. Mariana, the woman he had humiliated and dismissed, was standing before him, not as a subordinate, but as his superior. The shock quickly turned to panic. He stammered, trying to gather his composure. "Mariana, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I didn't know you were." His words trailed off as he realized how foolish he sounded. Mariana took a deep breath, suppressing the urge to smile at his discomfort. She needed to keep this professional. She had come here to do a job, not to gloat, though part of her couldn't help but feel the weight of everything she had been through. Her voice was calm, measured, as she spoke. "I'm here because the company values hard work, integrity, and leadership. I'm the new regional director," she said, her gaze never leaving his. "And I'll be overseeing the transition here. I'll be working closely with your team to ensure the integration goes smoothly." Mr. Walker's face flushed with embarrassment. His hands trembled slightly as he straightened up, trying to regain control. "I didn't expect this, Mariana. I didn't know things would change this much, but it's good to see you doing well. You've done well for yourself," he muttered, trying to smile, though it was forced. But Mariana wasn't fooled. She could see the fear in his eyes, the realization that the woman he had tried to break was now in control. The power dynamic had shifted, and he was now the one in a vulnerable position. The office that had once felt like his kingdom was now under new leadership, and that leadership wasn't about to forget how he had treated people. She stood tall, looking him in the eye. Mr. Walker, let me make something clear. What you did to me was wrong. The way you treated me, the way you treated so many people, was unacceptable. You overlooked my contributions, you undermined me, and when I stood up for myself, you dismissed me without a second thought. But I'm here now, and things are different. People like me will not be silenced. People like me will rise, and you will respect us. The room fell silent as her words hung in the air. Mr. Walker opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He had no retort, no defense. His face, which had once been filled with smugness, now looked pale and defeated. Mariana continued, her voice firm and unwavering. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because I believe in fairness. I believe in giving people a chance, no matter their background, and I'll be ensuring that everyone here has the same opportunities to thrive, whether they're from your inner circles or not. With that, she turned and walked toward the rest of the office, her presence commanding respect. Mr. Walker watched her go, a pit forming in his stomach. He had hoped to escape the consequences of his actions, but now he knew he would have to answer to someone he had once believed to be beneath him. Mariana didn't look back, but in her heart she felt a quiet sense of victory. Not only had she risen to a place of power, but she had done so with dignity and integrity. And now she would lead with the fairness and respect that had always been denied to her, and to so many others. As the days passed, the tension in the office between Mariana and Mr. Walker grew unbearable. He tried to maintain a professional front, but his fear was palpable. He had been demoted to a lower position, stripped of the authority he had once used to belittle others, and it gnawed at him. He couldn't stand the thought of working under a woman, especially a Latina woman, whom he had once treated with such disdain. One afternoon, just before the end of the workday, Mr. Walker requested a private meeting with Mariana. His face was flushed, his voice shaky as he stammered, Mariana, please, I know I've made mistakes. I was wrong to treat you the way I did. Please, give me another chance. I'll do better. I'll change. Just don't fire me. I can still be of use to the company. Mariana listened quietly, her face stoic. She had heard enough apologies from people like him over the years. She knew that Mr. Walker's words were born out of desperation, not genuine remorse. But instead of giving in to his pleas, she made a decision that would change everything. No, Mr. Walker, she said, her voice firm. I won't fire you, but I'm not giving you back the position you lost. You've been demoted, back to a position that you once mocked me for. You'll be working under my leadership now. You'll answer to me, and you will treat everyone here with the respect they deserve. Understand? His face twisted with a mix of humiliation and rage, but he could say nothing. He had no choice but to accept. Mariana walked away from the meeting, her heart light with victory. She didn't need to fire him to prove her point. He was now working for her, forced to treat the people he had once belittled with the respect he never gave. It was more than justice. It was a new era, one where no one, especially women and people of color, would ever be underestimated again. Thank you so much for watching this powerful story of resilience, justice, and triumph. Mariana's journey from being mistreated and underestimated to rising to the top is a reminder that hard work, perseverance, and self-respect can overcome even the toughest obstacles. We hope this story inspired you as much as it inspired us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the story and how you felt about Mariana's journey. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another story that celebrates strength, perseverance, and the power of overcoming adversity. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.